Welcome to Thorgood Tax Talk.
Hey everybody, welcome to an all-new episode of Thorgood Tax Talk with attorney Shamsey Oloko. I'm your host, Mike Leon. Shamsey's a seasoned tax attorney and he's the founder of the Thorgood Law Firm, where he defends clients in IRS audits, enforcement actions, and complex tax disputes. Today we're going to take a look at criminal tax investigations, what causes them, how they differ from civil matters, and what steps you can take if you're being investigated. So Shamsi, why don't we start at a high level here? What is exactly is a criminal tax investigation, and how does it differ from a civil audit or a dispute?
Good morning again, Mike. Thanks for being here. I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you about this topic. It's a topic that most people prefer not to get into, but if it happens to you, hopefully the information that we'll give you here will be helpful to you. So the first question is, what is the criminal tax investigation, and how does that differ from a civil audit or dispute? A civil dispute and audit usually is going to end up in you, the taxpayer, owing, X amount of dollars. It could be a large amount, a small amount, or sometimes in no action. A criminal investigation is a totally different matter. It's a much more serious situation in that it would generally end up in a criminal prosecution. And if you're found guilty by a judge or jury, some jail time plus fines and court costs. So that's generally the difference between the two.
So what sort of actions or omissions are usually or they usually lead the IRS to open up a criminal investigation? Is it just everybody thinks it's always this large scale fraud, or is it smaller mistakes that can cause that criminal investigation?
Generally, Mike, small mistakes don't lead to a CI investigation. If you transpose a number, innocent mistakes, that it wasn't, there's no criminal intent indicated in your actions, that's not going to get you into CI. By the way, when I say CI, I'm referring to criminal
Right.
investigation. Um, Fraud, generally, large scale, enterprise to evade taxes, that will definitely get you into CI. Even during audit, if IRS determines that there's a systemic approach where you're trying to defraud the government or you're lying about the information you're giving to the government, that will end up in CI investigation. So, it could also be the way you're preparing your tax return, the information you're giving to the tax return. If, for instance, you're a vet, and your tax return says that you're also a mechanic, and you happen not to be one,
Right.
that's a false information. And of course, as a taxpayer, you are responsible for all information in your tax returns, and you will be responsibility for that information. And if the examiner determines there's a pattern of lies, of misstatement, or fraud, they will refer that file for criminal investigation.
Right. Key difference between acting willfully versus making an honest mistake, right? So
That's right. Yeah, that's the
so
key issue.
so let me ask you, because I think you mentioned payroll taxes within there. So can payroll taxes, like withholding from employees but not remitting to the IRS, could that lead to criminal charges as well?
Yeah, that's it's a per se crime. There's a code section specifically that addresses an employer withholding taxes and not giving it to the government. That's a crime. I mean, if the government can establish that fact, you'll be guilty of a crime. Um, but generally, in real life, if you don't pay the money right away, the IRS is not going to launch a criminal investigation, right away. They will try to get you to comply with the law, engage you, and if you can do that, they will generally leave you alone. There are instances though that by the time the IRS finds out of what you're engaged in, it's clear there's a criminal intent. So they don't need to bother to engage you in restorative action. They will just go ahead and refer you to CI.
So what is this investigation, this CI for people out there? What does it look like from the taxpayer's perspective? Like when the IRS suspects criminal activity is happening, what does the investigation process look like?
Well, at the very, very early start, very, very early stage rather, as a taxpayer, you may not know. I mean, there are instances where, if the criminal, aspect of the case is manifest, very early on, you will know because, and usually the taxpayer who got involved knows what they did, and so they know what's happening. But if you're in an audit and that audit is going sideways, you may not know. If the agent who's examining your return determines that, hey, listen, there's a pattern to the way you're reporting your numbers, there's a pattern of you lying about it, or they determine there's a fraudulent intent. So without you knowing, they can refer the case. But soon enough, you will know because then someone will contact you and then they will have to let you know that, hey, listen, your matter is no longer a civil matter, it is now a criminal matter. And that's the point at which you should run to get yourself a tax lawyer, not work.
I was just about to ask you, where's the point that someone should run to you but you just answered that question. So then let me ask you then, are there any warning signs that suggest maybe a civil audit might be turning into a criminal case? Because you mentioned there, like there is this conversion of potentially you're willfully doing something. It's the intent part of this, but what are the warning signs that somebody can look for when this civil audit may turn into a criminal case or may go sideways, as you said?
Yeah. Well, so if the examiner is looking at your return and the pattern of their questions or the inquiries or something we call the IDR, um, so for let me anecdotes are usually very helpful. Um, if the examiner is requesting information from third parties about you, let's say you say that your income in 1 year is $450,000, and they're requesting information from folks who paid you, for instance, and you know that's not the information that's going to come back from those people. A real life example: a liquor store says, "Hey, listen, my total sales was $2 million," and the IRS says, "Okay, all right, can I get a list of your suppliers?" And you give me a list of the suppliers, and the suppliers supplied you with about $10 million worth of alcohol for that tax period. Unless you have a really bad drinking habit, you have a lot of alcohol that you sold, but that you didn't, tell the government. So that those are red flags. And usually the taxpayer would know because when the question starts to go in that direction, you have exposure. That's the time to pick up the phone and call your tax lawyer.
So how can contacting a tax lawyer and this devising this early legal strategy can it help influence the outcome in this criminal tax case?
Yes, very much so. We're very familiar with the system. We're familiar with the procedures. We've been doing this, for 3 decades. We know, quite a bit about how this is done. One of the first things that we want to do is minimize your exposure. And the best way to do that is get you to stop talking. If you don't say anything, you cannot say anything wrong. So that's the first one. Don't give any information to the government because if you do, you have exposure of giving false statements to the government, which in of itself is a crime. Um, I love to cite the case of several years ago, Martha Stewart was prosecuted uh, for insider trading or what have you. She actually went to prison not for the insider trading, but for false statements that she gave to the investigators. So you try to get that out of the way by you stop talking, and then we can engage, whoever's on the other side, be it, the prosecutors or still the agent. That, hey, listen, this is something that can be solved in a civil way instead of a criminal way. That, listen, it's a somewhat innocent error. There's no criminal intent. It's just something that we can resolve this, and you promise to be a good boy going forward, and we can move that out of prosecution altogether. So, and that's something that we have the benefit of experience, knowledge of the system that we can help you out with that.
Benefit of experience. So let's piggyback on that, Shamsi, and land the plane here. What is one piece of advice you'd give to somebody right now? They just learned they're under IRS criminal investigation. What's that piece of advice?
Very simple. Get on the phone, call your tax lawyer,
That's it.
and stop talking.
Stop talking, get on the phone, call your tax lawyer. Shamsi, I can't thank you enough for the insights and analysis on all this. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mike.
And thanks for listening to Thorgood Tax Talk. If you're facing a criminal tax investigation and you want to take the steps to prevent one, visit thorgoodlaw.com to connect with Shamsi and his team. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave us a review so others can find this information and protect themselves from investigation. I'm Mike Leon. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.